Everyday Backpacker. I'm Ghost Mule. This is my channel where I share with you some of my adventures in the wilderness and also some of the hard-fought knowledge I've developed over a couple decades worth of backpacking. Today is hopefully one of those kinds of videos. Now today, it's the day after Christmas. In Montana, it's a wind chill of -17. So I thought today would be a good day for me to just make up some coffee, put on my comfy old man sweater, and make a quick video. I wanted to make this video because recently I put out a question to some of my subscribers and friends about what kind of videos they would like to see me make. And anytime I put that out, I always get a similar response. There's usually something in there about someone wanting to know what kind of steps they need to take in order to become a beginning backpacker, or tips that could help somebody who is a beginning backpacker. Now this, of course, is a pretty legitimate question because everybody has to start somewhere, right? And the easiest way in most people's minds to start is to have knowledge, be able to do the activity that they want to do. But I didn't want to do just another video that talked about a step-by-step, gear-by-gear, play-by-play for how you should become a beginning backpacker. Frankly, there's quite a lot of videos out there from other YouTubers that frankly are better than I am that do just that. In fact, my buddy Doug from Backcountry Pilgrim, the guy that I recently did the little croc thing with, is doing a really well thought out and well researched series on just that. So if that's what you're looking for, I would recommend going and checking that out. So instead of just doing another video all about gear and skills and such like that, I wanted to instead focus a little bit more on maybe the psychological aspect of becoming a beginning backpacker. Now I have to admit, I got the idea to do this video from another channel, my buddy Mark from Mark Goes Hiking. And he did a video on steps to be a better backpacker, but with the same general idea as being a beginning backpacker. So I'm going to do this in two parts. The first part, I'm going to talk to those beginners out there that are curious about getting out and getting active in the outdoors as a backpacker. The second part is going to address those would-be expert backpackers who are put in the position of being able to take a new backpacker out into the woods. Now in my shop, I have people that come in all the time looking for the latest gear or the coolest gear or the gear that everybody is talking about on YouTube. And in this sense, these YouTube channels, myself included, have kind of created our own form of a monster. So the monster in the room, or the elephant in the room that the YouTube backpacking craze has created, in my mind, is this sense of you have to do it this way with this kind of gear in order to get this kind of results. And it kind of feeds into our human nature's tendency to want to fit in. We don't want to be that guy who doesn't look like they know what they're doing, and we want to kind of skip that awkward step of being out there and making mistakes and just not doing everything perfectly. The reality, any backpacker will tell you, is you never actually leave that point in time where you make mistakes. We're constantly making mistakes. In fact, just this last summer, myself and two other very seasoned backpackers made a very rookie mistake with a map that led us to partially get lost. And it wasn't the greatest moment in our lives. But you know what? It happens. People make mistakes. We got to get over that feeling of being afraid to show that we don't know what we're doing. Because it's okay to not know. Because the reality is that every single backpacker has been a beginning backpacker at some point in their time. Unfortunately, some of those backpackers have forgotten that. I often think that more trips have been ruined by ego than anything else that you can come across in the backcountry. So honestly, my number one advice for new backpackers is just go backpack. Don't worry about your gear. Don't worry about not knowing stuff. Because guess what? You're a beginner. Of course you're not going to know. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out there by yourself without any kind of knowledge. That would be foolhardy. Although I'm sure people have done it. I've certainly done my fair share of dumb things. But what I am suggesting is find somebody that you can go backpacking with who has that skill set. They can show you the ropes. Of course, not everybody has a friend that is a backpacker or knows people that are backpacking, but in most places, in those in areas, in cities, there are outdoors groups that you can find. So, yeah, it seems pretty simple, but just go out and do it. Find some people, get together with them, and go out on a trip. It's as simple as that. Because unfortunately, the most important part of backpacking is the reason why all of us go out and backpack. Why we put ourselves through this physical torture and discomfort in order to experience the outdoors. And that can't be taught. That can only be experienced. And you might ask, what is that lesson of backpacking? Well, for all backpackers, it's a little bit different. Everybody has their own little quirk or reason as to why they chose this hobby. I think for me, one of my favorites is a quote from this book here, the Knowles Wilderness Wisdom. It's just a book of quotes. It comes from David Douglas. He says, quote, "The wilderness is a place of rest, not in the sense of being motionless, for the lure, after all, is to move, to round the next bend. The rest comes in the isolation from distractions, in the slowing of the daily centrifugal forces that keep us off balance." It's about getting away. It's about forgetting all of the other parts of life for a little while and kind of finding your center again. And that has to be experienced. It can't be taught. It can't be told to you in 5 or less steps on a YouTube channel. It has to be met where the boot meets the gravel. Another quote that I recently heard from the just this year, one of 2 youngest people to ever do the calendar year Triple Crown. That's the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail, all in the same year. Sammy Potter said, "These trails have a lot of lessons to teach. Every trail you go on will have a different lesson for you to teach. It's up to you to put your foot onto that trail." Now, my second part of this video is my advice to those experienced backpackers out there who may find themselves with the great responsibility of leading a new backpacker into the backcountry. Unfortunately, I think that this is a step that many of us have messed up with the best of intentions and inadvertently cost somebody to have a less than great experience in the backcountry. Our role in introducing someone to backpacking is to provide them the best opportunity for growth and having a great experience that we can. One of the quickest ways that we can mess that up is by trying to be the expert, which is something that we all feel like we need to do in order to share with somebody a new experience, to try to teach them. Oftentimes, though, if we constantly spend time correcting and criticizing their efforts, we run the risk of becoming condescending and making them resent that knowledge as opposed to accepting it. So what we really need to do as teachers is learn to allow that new backpacker to make those mistakes. Now, we, as all backpackers, have made mistakes, and we learn from those, and those times oftentimes are some of the best stories that we have as backpackers. So yeah, sometimes we need to just not try to make everything work for them and let them figure it out for themselves. The other thing that we got to be very careful about is how we plan our trip. Now, if you've been backpacking for many, many years, it's very likely that you are pretty physically fit for it and able to do something that most people, frankly, can't do. So you want to avoid the possibility of picking a trail that would be easy for you, but not necessarily for a first-time backpacker. Really good analogy to that is one of my best friends that I have gone backpacking with. He is exceptionally in shape. I refer to him as the human mountain goat because he just goes and goes and goes. So when he proposes a trip and says it's going to be fairly easy, I have to ask him, is it easy for you or is it easy for me? Because my skill level is slightly different than his, although in the last couple of years I've shortened that gap some. Conversely, we also don't want to pick a trip that's too easy. Because if it's too easy, they're not going to be pushed a little bit beyond their limits. And that's where the most growth happens, is if you're pushed just a little farther than you necessarily want to. I took a gentleman who was a first-time backpacker up to a mountain lake a couple years ago, and all throughout the hike, he kept, struggling a little bit. He was able to do it. He made it just fine. It wasn't such a struggle that he, made him miserable. But when we made it to the lake, he, very memorably said that it was worth all of that work. And so that payoff is what allows them to understand that backpacking, although not always easy, is rewarding in so many different ways. But if he hadn't been pushed a little bit, he would have never had that experience. So don't pick something too easy. Don't pick something too hard. And although, yes, most of the backpacking is not about the destination, it's about the journey. In this case, a destination is a pretty good payoff for a first-time backpacker. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. Just like with any other hobby, you've just got to get out there and do it. Try not to be embarrassed by making the mistakes. Instead, learn from them. And for those of us that are teaching the new people, we need to make it tough, but not out of reach. And also, we need to cool our ego a little bit and allow them to learn without us trying to force it down them with a spoon. And so it's important for us experienced backpackers to humble ourselves as well in the teaching of new backpackers, because that same quote works just for us as it does for new backpackers, and that is, the trail has lots of lessons to teach us. And so I'll finish the video with one last little bit of knowledge from Noel's Wilderness Wisdom, and another quote on why people choose to go into backpacking and other outdoor pursuits. For me, and for thousands with similar inclinations, the most important passion of life is the overpowering desire to escape periodically from the clutches of a mechanistic civilization, to use the enjoyment of solitude, complete independence, and the beauty of undefiled panoramas is absolutely essential to happiness. Bob Marshall. So what are some of the best experiences that you may have had as a beginning backpacker? And what are some things that maybe cause you to want to become a backpacker? Let me know in the comments below. If you like what you see here, please don't forget to subscribe. And also, if you're interested, I do have stickers. So either send me a direct message from the Instagram account, everyday_backpacker, or send me an email to everydaybackpacker@gmail.com, and I'll happily send one of those out to you. And as always, keep hiking on.